Greetings. This is Dumont. Happy Halloween. This evening, I would like to review a whole bunch of vampire movies real quick. So let's start off with Nosferatu. This movie is a classic. Keep in mind that it has no sound. It's black and white, but if you're into the original story of Dracula, if you like history, then this movie is a must-see. Just because if you watch this, it's part of the history for vampire films. So it's definitely good to watch for that purpose. And if you've seen this, then I definitely also recommend to watch Shadow of the Vampire, because Shadow of the Vampire is a modern film, but it takes place in that time when they were supposedly filming Nosferatu. So it's a whole fantasy take on what happened behind the scenes of the filming of the classic Nosferatu. So definitely check both of those out together. To me they're like a good team. So now the next one I want to talk about, of course, none other than Dracula. This is the 1931 version. This is, I believe, the first suave Dracula to make its appearance, and a very good job. The only criticism that I have is the ending is actually, it ends almost anticlimactically. It just abruptly ends. You don't even see the vampire getting staked. So that was a little bit of letdown, but it's definitely another classic. Pretty much, it was set the stage for the suave vampire. Now, this next movie that I want to talk about is Dracula. Once again, this is the 1984 version, if I'm not mistaken. This one right here is. It's pretty much a retelling of the same basic story, but it's very well done, very moody. One thing that stands out about this is that the score was actually done by John Williams, so definitely check it out. It is kind of scary, but it also adds the very romantic side of Dracula. And one of the interesting things about Dracula himself was that the actor Frank Langella said that he didn't want any contacts for the red eyes. He didn't want fangs. He said he wanted to portray Dracula just from his acting. He didn't want to have that kind of makeups on him. So that's another interesting to note. So definitely check this one out as well. Okay, so moving along, let's go to Innocent Blood. What I have to say about this one is it seems like, a little bit more campy, a little bit more lower budget. It's more like fun. It's a vampire, just going to war basically against the mafia. So it's kind of a silly kind of story. The one thing that I can say is that the vampires have beautiful eyes. The way the eyes glow is it's very, very interesting. And wonderful to look at, actually. Another thing that's kind of disappointing is that the vampires, even though they're very strong and fast and stuff like that, if you shoot them, they'll die from just a basic, gunshot. So that was kind of disappointing. All right, so now let's go to Dracula 2000. This movie was a nice modern reinvention, should I say, of the old tale. What was kind of funny for me, actually, was that the guy that they chose to play Dracula is none other than the guy that played Leonidas in 300. So the good thing is you can't even recognize him, because, I don't know, for some reason he looks very, very different from the 300, which is a good thing, because if he looked like him, I would probably keep saying to myself, this is Sparta, and just totally ruin the Dracula movie. So as far as the movie itself, it's a very interesting take on it. It's a, it's a different uh, story, and they added like I don't want to give too much away, but they added some explanations that actually seems quite logical as to Dracula's origins and stuff like that. Now, what was kind of disappointing to me was that, okay, Dracula's nemesis, Van Helsing, right, is actually the original Van Helsing. So they are going to battle each other, and you would think that since they are nemesis, it's going to be an epic battle, but it was actually very lacking in that sense. Van Helsing, even though he's a great actor, wasn't able to do much here. So that was a little bit disappointing. Moving on, the next movie, Queen of the Damned. Um, this is one movie where I have to say where the vampires are very, very sexy. Male, female, even the extras. Anyone in this film that's like a vampire is gonna be attractive to somebody in the audience out there, you know. So you'll definitely find a vampire that you find attractive in this movie. At least one is what I think. So, and to me, that's very, very important. That's very, very important in this kind of vampire movie. So definitely, even though it's campy story-wise, it's just, to me, it's almost like a Dracula, not a Dracula. It's like a Godzilla versus King Kong, just two monsters going at it. It kind of reminds me of that kind of story. But even though it has nothing to do with that, okay, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to imagine, giant vampires fighting each other. It's nothing like that. But you just get that feeling because like Akasha is a very powerful vampire, and then, it's the whole climatic scene of leading into that kind of thing. So anyway, that was just the way I felt it. Another movie that I'd like to mention is Breed. This movie right here was actually very surprising. It seemed kind of low budget, but the storytelling is what's really good here. This takes you to a world where, vampires are mixed in with society, and you see the society of how vampires are, and there's politics and stuff like that, and it's a very good story. So I definitely recommend that. Next, moving on, The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys is a classic movie. Very well done, because even though it mixes a little bit of comedy and total 80s and stuff like that, it still captures the essence of a vampire movie. It has the sexiness. It does have the romance in there. So I definitely recommend checking out The Lost Boys if you have not seen it. Now the next one is Bram Stoker's Dracula. Of course, this one, they reinvented the tale, and they told it so well in this movie. They try to keep it as close as possible to the original story, the actual novel, and then they added an origins. Which they did a very, very good job. They mixed in the Vlad the Impaler part in there, and they did so good with it. So there's historical ties in there. The costumes, it's just incredible. This just took Dracula to a completely new level. So definitely check this out if you haven't seen it. Last but not least, I want to talk about 30 Days of Night. I can't really call this a vampire movie. It's very innovative, so that's why I'm mentioning it here. And even though they say they're vampires, they're more like zombies. So to me, this was more like a typical zombie fighting movie than it was a vampire movie. But they do have vampiristic characteristics. But if you think about it, so zombies and vampires seem to have a lot in common, even though they seem totally different. But if you think about it, they're both undead. They both spread like diseases and stuff like that. But personally, I like the vampires where when they make another vampire, it's like romantic. It's a very special act. It's not just like a disease spreading. But that's my personal opinion. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my brief, quick reviews. Once again, happy Halloween, and thank you for watching. Good night.